With the preseason for the upcoming NFL season right around the corner, that totally rolls off the tongue, by the way, it's time to lock in some predictions on how each and every team will fare throughout this season. The Patriots will once again finish last in the division. Drake May is just not ready to do much better under a new head coach, and this era is going to be off to a rough start. The Jets, even if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, are still the Jets. The Bills could possibly make the playoffs again, but 10-7 is more of a generous record considering they can just as easily collapse, miss out, and Sean McDermott ends up getting fired. The Dolphins are likely going to suffer another late season collapse and losing the wild card, but at least they'll do it as the division champs. The Browns, despite some of the talent on that roster, are likely going to fall off a bit from last season. The Steelers are once again going to survive off of their own asses with another season above 500. Hooray for Mike Tomlin keeping that little streak of his as insignificant alive. The Ravens are likely going to end up taking a step back, but they're still going to compete with the rest, trying to, well, make the playoffs. And then there are the Bengals, who are going to return by form and win the division, pretty much securing themselves another chance to add more agony. The Titans are officially going all in on Will Levis, but his first full season as a starter won't amount to much. The Colts are likely gonna regress. Do not be surprised if they overachieve yet again. If anything, whoever wins the division comes down to the Jaguars and the Texans. That should tell how much things have changed, but the Jaguars are still going to be fighting for a playoff spot, whereas the Texans are going to be the main team that defend their title, albeit it's going to be much closer and it's going to be barely. Despite the promise of the no longer interim coach, the Raiders still need some time to find their footing. Bo Nix and Zach Wilson are not going to help the Broncos as much at all, considering Sean Payton has become a massive ego at this point and is going to be dealing with, well, more egos. And more egos and older quarterbacks, one of which a rookie. The Chargers might surprise people with new head coach Jim Harbaugh, but they're known to bring pain to their franchise, plus they're playing second fiddle. That right there ends up meaning congratulations on securing a third consecutive Super Bowl appearance, Chiefs, because the NFL pretty much hates everybody. With a lot of the old crew finally being kicked out the door, it's going to be an exciting time for Washington. But they're most likely going to be stuck in a long term rebuild just to make sure any stink that's left is gone. The Giants are likely going to move on from both Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll after all is said and done because nothing has been able to show results and they love their 2 to 3 year coach cycles. The Eagles, well, as much as I'd like for them to bounce back and make a deep run, they lost some key pieces and once again changed coordinators. They'll still at least have a shot at the playoff race, but there's also a chance that my birds here can collapse and miss out altogether, possibly meaning Nick Sirianni gets fired, and we're back to the old square one again. This leaves us with the worst case scenario of Cowboys fans showcasing their arrogance once again as back to back division champs. But don't worry, cause they'll fail to make it past the second round again, which leads to both Dak and Mike McCarthy gone from the franchise. Hooray for parody! Caleb Williams is likely going to be a day one starter, but the Bears are far from ready to compete for the playoffs, with Eberflus getting fired as a result of another last place finish. The Vikings are going to fall off considering that their options are JJ and Sam McDonald, who pretty much is washed at this point and turnover happy and Yeah, there's not gonna be all sunshines and rainbows for this franchise. The Packers, they're gonna build off their momentum and improve their core with players. It's not gonna be enough to dethrone who's gonna win, but it's still gonna be enough to show signs that they're still around. This leaves the Lions being on top of the division, and with their backup having moved on to take on a coaching job, I guess. But they still got all the young players and now have the experience to actually make deep runs. There's no sugarcoating around this. This division just sucks. You want proof? Well, here's your proof. The Panthers are going to struggle badly throughout Bryce Young's second season. While they do get an improved record, that ultimately means nothing. Do not be surprised if Baker Mayfield proves to be a massive liability for the Buccaneers, considering their head coach is Todd Bowles. The Saints, well, they're pretty much the old ass Saints, relying on old players stuck in their old ways and pretty much dealing with some washed up players. Yet, despite all of this, the Falcons are somehow going to win with a losing record because they have Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, and that's automatically better. Plus, yeah, I don't know what's going on at that rookie position. And, like, seriously, you better show those results, and you better show them now. While stat-wise, it's gonna be better for the Cardinals this season, they still have a long ways to go before they can even make much progress. Geno Smith and Drew Lock can only carry the Seahawks for so long before they fall apart. And despite the 8 wins, this is gonna be when Geno Smith and Drew Lock fall apart. And despite Aaron Donald retiring, the Rams are gonna try to at least keep it competitive and try to fight for a playoff spot. With how weak the NFC is, this season is very likely going to feature the 49ers making it back to the Super Bowl, setting the stage for a rematch. Oh, hey, would you look at that? It just so happens that this is going to be the season that Christian McCaffrey has a career year alongside some of the other talents on the roster. Hooray! Congrats on winning MVP, Christian McCaffrey. Thank you to all 32 teams who decided to come out and play this season. Your participation trophies are going to be outside the door. Come back again next season where we end up dealing with another Chiefs Super Bowl win.